Today we are at Perdido Key and we are visiting Perdido's Seafood, a long-time seafood place here in the Western Panhandle. And we're going to talk about some of the things that they sell in the market and how this industry is going. I have with me Miss Dorothy Lee. She is our Family Consumer Science Agent in the Escambia County Extension Office. And we're also going to be cooking a meal. So let's go inside and talk to the folks there. All right, good morning. We're inside Perdido Bay Seafood. This is Miss Teresa Pitts, manager of the seafood market here. And how long have you guys been in the business in this?
We've been here since the late 80s. Bought this place. It's been a seafood market since the 60s. Okay. But we've got 3 generations working in here right now.
That's kind of cool. Now again, you bought it from, was it a family member you bought it from? Or
no, the Nicks. Nicks owned it.
Nicks owned it. Okay. And I was going to ask that question. In the seafood industry, when people get involved in a business like this, I'm guessing historically they were actually fishermen and they sold, and eventually that led to a market. So
correct.
Were you guys involved in the fishing at all before you bought the market?
Oh yeah, this place was built on mullet. And then, as you're probably aware, back in 1992, there was the net ban in the state of Florida. So that shut us down and we had to go to different avenues. So that's when we ended up with our commercial reef fishing permits and got into snapper, grouper, amberjack, stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
And I know now you've got a couple of boats that come in and dock right here off the side. Yep. How many boats are you working with right now?
I think we're working with about 4 or 5. There's a couple that hop around, you know, on the East Coast and the Atlantic. Then they come into the Gulf. Just depends on what time of year and what season. Some people, they'll fish over in Louisiana and then they'll hop over here and fish here for a little while. So it's pretty neat. During the off season in the fall and the winter, when there's not very much charter business, we'll have some of those boats that are permitted and they'll actually fish for us just to make it through the winter.
And you had said you had some old timers that used to catch crabs for you and caught mullet for you. A lot of that is kind of going away because people aren't stepping in and taking over for them? Correct.
After the BP oil spill in 2010, a lot of those old crabbers were about my parents' age, you know, in their mid-40s, whatever, and their kids were starting to go off to college. Well, they shut down all harvest up here in our area in the Gulf of Mexico for any seafood. Well, those guys that own these little businesses and had little crab pots and just peddled them around to the different markets here in town, they didn't have any money to put their kids through college. So they sold their pots, their traps, their licenses, everything to the crab picking places. And so now those guys kind of have a monopoly on the crab meat. And that's why your prices are kind of just, they're out of sight sometimes. You just don't even know when you walk in. It's just a shocker. And it's a shocker for us too when they deliver it and give us our invoice. You can believe that.
Yeah, we've discussed that before. A lot of people are asking questions about the price of crab meat and why it's going up.
Right, yeah. There's no little man anymore. You've just got the big guys and that's it. So that's where your price is just, it's uncontrollable sometimes.
And locally for you guys, where are those big guys? Where are they located?
Most of them are in Coden, Alabama is where we get a lot of our crab meat. Okay. And we get it, you know, a couple times a week. But it always comes in fresh and in 1-pound containers and they're good to go.
You've got a variety of products right here that you got in ice we can talk about. What do you guys got going right now?
So the local favorite, of course, is always grouper. That's one of your federally regulated species. Grouper's great. I think it's a little overrated. There's still plenty of fish that are just as mild, just as sweet, light and flaky. You know, you've got red snapper. Your jacks are pretty mild. As long as we cut the bloodline out, you're good to go. But there's plenty of other fish out there in the Gulf that are great besides grouper. So broaden your horizons and check out some of these other good fish. There's triple tails, very sweet, cobia, mahi. Any of those are good.
We had discussed this before because on the other end, of course, you got shrimp, and I'm assuming that is the most sought after product is shrimp?
A lot of times, yes, because people aren't as intimidated by it. Not that it's any better. But here in our store, we do steam and season any of those shrimp that we sell. And so a lot of people that don't know what they're doing and have never cooked any seafood, they're like, yeah, give me some of that because that's easy. Cook it for me. And then all they got to do is go home and eat it, you know. But we don't cook the fish. Yeah. We do have a lot of customers that come in and they're like, we heard you steam me. And I'm like, whoa, whoa. If I did that, I'd never get to go home at night.
Yeah, right.
we'd be a restaurant, you know.
But we had
So
discussed that before. You thought people were a little leery of buying some of these other products because they are not sure what to do with them.
yep, and it's very easy. You know, most of these fish are very, very mild. You just need minimal seasoning. Any seasoning that you like on it, chicken, pork, anything is going to be good on seafood. Don't try to get all fancy and start throwing the capers and stuff you're not, you know, used to in there. Then you're going to get some freaky recipe with some weird taste and it might turn you off. But like us, one of our favorite seasonings is Montreal steak. It's very well rounded. It's great on any kind of seafood. The Justin Wilson's is great. There's even a Paul Prudhomme Salmon Magic. I know it says salmon. Don't panic. It's still very good. We use it on chicken and vegetables and everything on the grill. But what we recommend with your light flaky fish, your snapper, grouper, triple tail, stuff like that, if you want to cook it, take those pieces and cut them where they'll fit on your spatula. That way it's not going to be a big giant piece. It'll cook a little more evenly. Also, if you're one of those crazy people that got to flip and flop all the time, it's not going to look like a bomb went off, because those light and flaky ones, you're going to have to invite your neighbors over and have 14 spatulas to flip a big fillet of fish. But just shrink it down for yourself where it's not so intimidating, and you'll be just fine. Yep. So.
And here right now, I see. I don't know if it's seasonal. Like you said, you've got the amberjack, you've got the triple tail, we got salmon. It's fall right now. Is there a certain product? I think not the triple tail, the triggerfish is the one that's just now starting to come in, right?
Yep.
Fall season. What do you normally see running through the market during fall and winter?
Well, snapper and grouper and tilefish, as long as you're federally permitted and allocated, you're good to go on those through the whole year, commercially. But the other things, one of the things that we won't see until fall kicks in real good is like your flounder, redfish, stuff like that, the more inshore type fish, pompano. And I don't know if you're aware or not, but redfish, you're not allowed to commercially harvest in the state of Florida. So if we get some of that, we've got to order it in. Typically, we order from like New Orleans Fish House in Louisiana, and they bring that over. Flounder's been pretty hard to come by. I know the Alabama Marine Division, they've been doing a 5-year program trying to restock that. We don't have any of that going on in Florida that I'm aware of. I wish we could get into that, because I like to go floundering every fall, and the last 3 years I haven't even seen one. So it's been really hard.
Yeah.
But anyway, fall's pretty exciting. You'll get some of your cobia and stuff like that. But that's pretty much it.
Some shellfish. You've got scallop and oysters. Those
Yep.
are year-round?
They are.
Okay.
Scallops for us do not come out of the Gulf. You're not allowed to commercially harvest those. They've got to come out of the Atlantic. Typically, they will come in either dry packed or water added. You want to look for dry packed scallops, and you can always ask for them frozen, because typically that's how they come in. Some people do get them in fresh. It depends with us what time of year it is, but you can always ask and we'll let you know.
Okay. Well, let's go down and take a look at the other side of the market.
All right.
All right, on this side, of course, we've got what a lot of people consider their favorite seafood, the shrimp. You know, I've looked at a couple of surveys. That's male, female, young, old. Everybody seems to like shrimp. And you got the bay shrimp, you've got the Gulf shrimp, we've got royal reds. As far as popularity in your market, what do people prefer?
If people aren't aware of what the difference between royal reds and the classic Gulf shrimp or bay shrimp are, and they eat a royal red, might freak them out a little bit. You know, a lot of people get freaked out by texture more than anything. And when people say they don't like seafood, most of them say it's the texture. Royal reds are going to be very tender, very delicate, a lot sweeter like lobster or crab meat. And when you're buying your Gulf shrimp or your bay shrimp, no matter how it's cooked, whether it's blackened, grilled, fried, whatever, you're looking for that nice firm snap when you bite into it. You don't want a mushy classic Gulf shrimp or bay shrimp. You want it to be nice and firm. And the royal reds are the complete opposite. Totally different taste, totally different texture. We've had, recommended them to people when we've been super busy, and they get them, and then they'll call us back an hour later and be like, these are the worst shrimp we ever had. And I'm like, well, how'd you cook them? And they say, cook them? Well, they ate them raw because the shell is red. But if you look at the meat, it doesn't look cooked at all. But people just assume sometimes, which if I did that, I'd probably never eat them again. But anyway, just always ask the people working at your local seafood market what you need to do, and they should be able to tell you and steer you in the right direction.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good advice. And you guys have no problem giving advice.
Oh, no. If you get me started, I hope you got a few minutes.
Are they seasonal, the Royal Reds? I mean,
they are seasonal. The Royal Red boat that goes out, typically they'll stay out until they fill the whole boat. They do all the processing on the ship. All Royal Reds are typically frozen on the boat. They can be sorted, deheaded, they can be peeled and deveined there. And when they come in, they're all individually quick frozen, and that's how they're sent out to everyone. So if you're traveling, be sure to ask your seafood market, hey, we're traveling, can you give me those frozen? We get them in 2-pound bags where they're, like I said, individually quick frozen, so it's loose, it's not a block. And we can break that down into 1-pound bags or whatever you need, and then they're great to travel. They typically stay frozen in an ice chest about a day and a half, 2 days.
Okay. And then we were already talking about the crab, so is crab available year-round?
Crab is available year-round. One thing you want to watch out for is during the colder months, when the water temperature goes down, the crabs will lower their metabolism and bury up in the sand and the mud, and they'll stay like that and not move all winter long. And they'll stay there until the water starts to warm up in the spring. So in the spring, you've got really poor crabs. They're typically called hollowbacks. You can catch a bunch, but they've starved all winter, so when you catch them, they may be big, but when you open up their shell, there's barely any meat inside. And so as the water gets warmer and warmer, they'll feed all through the spring and the summer, and the fall is always the best time for your crab meat. That's when they're the biggest, fattest, juiciest, and the cheapest. When they're hard to come by, they're going to be more expensive. So if you need crab meat for Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, buy it in October, buy it in September. Those are the best months for price and quality. And just freeze it up yourself and save it for then, because you can bet on it, it's going to be twice the price in the middle of the winter.
All right, Teresa, I really appreciate you spending some time with us. And I hope you guys get to visit the seafood market. You definitely want to get some of that dip and try some of the other products throughout the year. Thanks again.
Thank you. All right, there you go.
Thank you. Have
Yes,
a nice
ma'am.
day.
You too.
So join me in the extension kitchen. We're going to prepare some triggerfish, several types of dishes. I think we're going to bake some and maybe grill some, and I know I'm going to fry a little bit of it, but mainly going to focus on blackened. Triggerfish is wonderful. Flavor comes out when you blacken it. So join me in the extension kitchen.
Okay, we've left the market and now we're in the kitchen, the place we really, really want to be. We brought triggerfish for us, and today Miss Dorothy is going to show us a tradition that came out or was made popular over New Orleans, and that is blackening fish. A lot of folks, as we just talked about, don't buy fish because they're not sure exactly what to do with it. A lot of folks enjoy blackened fish, but they're not real comfortable or not sure about how to do the process. Just speaking from experience, I know the first time my son and I tried this, we did set off the smoke alarm. But I know we did something wrong, and Miss Dorothy is going to show us the right way to do it. So Miss Dorothy, we're going to turn it over and let you do your magic.
I have some triggerfish, and today we're going to prepare it in 2 different ways. I'm going to blacken some of the fish, and then also what we call pan fry or skillet fry some of the fish. So let's get started. Our first recipe is the blackened fish, and I'm using an iron skillet because of the heat source, and I'm going to put just a little bit of oil in the bottom because I don't want it to really stick. So you don't need but just a little. You can blacken without it, but I prefer to have a little bit. And I'm using some blackened seasoning. I have some very nice fillets of triggerfish. Triggerfish is a white fish, and it is one of those types of fish that's very versatile. You can use in place of any white fish in the recipe, so makes it really nice. So I'm going to just kind of sprinkle a little bit of the seasoning. I have a little bit of oil in my iron skillet because the iron skillet can really get to the hot, which gives us a nice crust on our fish when we're blackened. And I have some beautiful triggerfish fillets here, and I've added a little bit of blackened seasoning to each side of our fillet. And so now I'm going to go ahead, and the skillet's just about hot enough. You want a very hot skillet. Now there are a lot of other ways. You could use clarified butter. You could use all butter in your skillet, or you could use oil. And I'm using a little bit of canola oil because you can get to very high heat with canola oil. So we fill our skillet. I think our skillet is just about ready. And I'm going to go ahead and put our fish. You can hear it sizzling, I hope. And it's going to need to cook on each side about 3 to 5 minutes, and that kind of sears that flavor into the fish and also cooks the fish to a real flaky doneness. So, okay. Around the edges you can see where it's kind of changing, the fish is changing color, and it's a little bit white around the edges. That kind of indicates to me that I know that it's going to be ready to turn really soon. Usually the rule of thumb in preparing fish is 10 minutes per inch, but if these are very thin fillets and we want them blackened, so we want that nice crust. So let's turn our fish, see how nice the crust is already formed on it. This fillet is not quite ready yet to be turned because it is a little larger fillet, so the larger fillets are going to take a little bit longer, of course. And you can even, I don't know if you can see the steam coming up, but this is a very hot skillet. And I recommend that if you're going to blacken on a griddle of some type, or use an iron skillet because it does retain the heat. So starting on each side now. Okay, so you can see where it's starting. I think that we are ready to turn it. There we go. And let it cook on that side. As the fish starts to change color, a little bit of white, you can tell that it's starting to reach that desired doneness that we require for it. Okay. All right. Our next recipe is a pan-fried, or the new terminology, a slow skillet fried triggerfish. And I just put a little bit of oil on my iron skillet, and you can see it starting to get hot. And I'm going to dredge the fillets in a little bit of egg. Now you can put it in flour and then egg, or you can just put it in the egg and then put it in your breading. Okay, let's get this one up off of the plastic there. Okay, so I'm just going to coat it a little bit. Okay, there we go. All right, there, we have it coated. And I have some breadcrumbs. And I'm going to put a few of them here in my dredge pan. Okay, and you can use plain breadcrumbs, or you can use the Italian seasoned ones. That really makes it really a nice flavor. Okay, all right. Now, dredge my fillet in the breadcrumbs. Kind of pat it a little bit so that it'll stay. Turn it this way a little bit. Okay. And I'm just very, very lightly breading it. Very lightly. Okay. Let's pull up our next fillet. and bread it a little bit. Okay. All right, now, and our skillet is nice and hot, and so we're going to go ahead, and I just have a small amount of oil, and I want a nice crust on the fillet, so that's why I have a hot skillet. So this one needs a little bit more coating. Okay. There we go. Can hear the sizzle in our skillet. Okay. Okay. And move it over just a little bit to the other eye. Starting to get nice and golden brown on the back, on the underneath side. There we go. Now, we're going to cook it for about 3 to 4 minutes on each side. Okay. Could have used a little bit of seasoning on our fillets, or just salt and pepper would have been a good choice also. I like to use Italian breadcrumbs. I have plain ones today, but Italian breadcrumbs are an excellent seasoning for this type of dish. Okay. And while these are starting to cook on each side, I also sometimes, when I blacken fish, I prepare a red sauce, which is just tomatoes and lots of spices and so forth. And with the red sauce, what I usually do is I will just kind of spoon a little bit over my blackened fillets, and that gives it a little bit of extra flavor too. Okay, these are cooking nicely. Doesn't take very long. Okay. Okay. Ah, nice brown on this one. Okay. One thing to remember, anytime you're frying, whether it's a deep fat fry or whether it's just a skillet fry, is not to overload the cooking container, because what happens is that cools the oil down and takes a little bit longer for it to cook. So. Okay, I think these are about ready. We have our plate here. Okay, this is our nice golden breaded trigger fish. With our blackened fish, I've added some lemon wedges, which adds a little bit of flavor too. And then on our breaded fish, then I will squeeze just a little bit of lemon over the top of it and gives it a little more flavor. So there you have it, 2 ways to prepare trigger fish, blackened or breaded. It could be baked also in the oven. That's an excellent way. And of course, outside on your grill.